Okay, everybody, I just want to warn you this vlog is pretty long and it's just talking. But I'm not going to shorten it because I genuinely think there's information in here that everybody wants to know. And I have no idea what part is important, so I'm keeping it all. If this vlog is not for you, then just, skip it and watch the next one. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So this is my second time recording this vlog. The first time I was walking outside and there was cars coming by and so much noise in the city and I was like, ugh. Didn't work out. So now it's past 12 at night and we are recording this again. We are going to talk about Swedish healthcare systems.
Yay.
A lot of you guys have been asking about that in the comments. So I thought, let's make it into a video. So, but first, how about you guys subscribe? So that way you don't miss a video. You can always change your mind and it's for free. So why not?
Why not?
All right, let's get to this. Okay, so the Swedish healthcare system. Let's start with economics first. The fun part.
Well, it actually is quite fun because it doesn't cost a lot.
No, it doesn't. Here in Sweden, a normal doctor's visit costs you around 250 crowns, which is somewhere between 20 to 25 euros.
Yeah.
That's the max you pay usually, but if you go to the doctor a lot during a year, there is something they call högkostnadsskydd, which translates to protection against high cost. That number is 1,300 crowns as of this year, 2023. Yeah, if you start paying more than 1,300 crowns, after that everything becomes free, all the doctor's visits.
Not medication, but anything where you go to the doctor, if you need to go back, take more samples, blood tests, anything, it's just covered by healthcare.
Exactly. This rule also applies to medication, but it's separate number.
Yeah.
Like if you reach 1,300 crowns in doctor's visits, medication isn't automatically free. You also need to reach a certain number. I don't know that number at the top of my head.
Somewhere in my brain, it's 2,600 crowns per year. So when you reach that amount, it's deducted. So it's not for free, but it's significantly less. Like there's a discount to your medication. It's very affordable.
Like when you end up in hospital for an emergency or anything, I've never, ever had to pay for that.
I've had to do that, yeah. And I think my dad, who recently went to a little visit unexpectedly, he also had to pay for it. But it's stupid cheap. I want to say that it's mainly like the meal costs.
Dinner, yes.
Or like overnight stay, 100 crowns, or 2 dinners and a lunch, 60 crowns. Like it's very redacted prices on everything.
Yeah, it's really cheap. And I think I probably haven't paid anything because I never stayed overnight. I just went into the emergency room, they took care of me, and then they sent me home. And that's maybe why I never really paid anything.
Were you there with your work?
Well, I've also been there for myself or for other people.
I mean, when you go to an emergency, you still have to pay a cost. Like when you go to the doctor.
Maybe I was already in högkostnadsskydd. That's probably possible. Anyway, the point being, it's so cheap you can forget about it.
Yes. Or at least you don't have to worry about it.
No, you definitely don't have to worry about. Like, and if you're wondering, if you're maybe watching from America and wondering where this money is coming from, you guessed it. Taxes. And yes, I know a lot of people, especially in America, are worried about, oh, I have to pay so much taxes for somebody else's medical bill. I mean, you don't even notice it. You just live your life like normal. It's not like we barely have any money to spend. It's just normal taxes, and you benefit from it so much. I have been in hospital in America, and those bills were so expensive that the amount of taxes I pay here in Sweden is much, much less over an entire year than that one hospital bill in America. So I think it's way worth it. Let's move on from the economics and go to the quality. I think, in my experience, comparing this to Holland, I think the quality is just as good or even better sometimes here in Sweden. They take really good care of you, and they are really looking out for you. Like in Holland, if you come to a doctor with a problem, they'll fix the problem and they send you out the door again. But here they really make sure, like, what do we do to not have the problem return? Is there anything else that's bothering you? And, oh, I see that you also are dealing with this in life. Is this something we need to take care of?
I'm not sure that's my experience.
Yes, but I also think healthcare starts here a lot at work. Like, compared to Holland, they send you home earlier than they would in Holland. Like, to make sure that you don't make other people sick, and also to make sure that you don't get too sick that you have to be away for a longer time.
Are you saying that it's more okay to go home
Yeah.
if you're feeling sick?
But also, for a Dutch person, sometimes I'm just like, I just have a small cold, I can still work. And then here in Sweden, they would like, oh, you have a cold. No, you need to go home. And I was like, really? But I can still work. And that's something that seems a lot more important here. In Holland, the attitude is a lot like, if you're not falling down because you're that sick, you can work. That's the attitude a lot in Holland. And that's definitely not here in Sweden. Here in Sweden, they want to take care of you and your colleagues.
I'd say it depends a little bit on where you're at, but I would definitely say it's like no one's upset with you if you say that, oh, I'm not feeling great. I'll stay home today.
I mean, of course, this is different from
Place to place.
and boss to boss.
But in general.
Yeah, in general, they take care of you a lot more already before you meet the doctors, like just the people themselves. Now, the quality of the doctors, in my opinion, is good. I have never really had a complaint about Swedish doctors or nurses I had to deal with. Again, this is my personal experience. While I have had complaints with doctors in Holland, and just hasn't happened here for me.
Cool.
So yeah, and another important thing here in Sweden, mental health is also health.
Yeah.
It's important to feel mentally stable here as well. And they don't just think if you are diagnosed with schizophrenia or something. It goes all the way for like, are you feeling okay today? Are you not working too hard and making yourself overtired?
They can also prescribe you going to a psychologist or psychologist.
A shrink.
A shrink. So that is also included in your price, like in the cost of going to the doctor.
Yeah.
Of course, you can go to a shrink or a psychologist on your own time because you feel like you need to, but you can also have a doctor say that we think this is wise for you too.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if the doctor tells you to go to a psychiatrist, then you will pay like the 250 or the kostnadsgoed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you decide to go yourself, then you're paying full price.
Yeah.
Like, that's also a thing here in Sweden. Everything that you need is very cheap, but everything you choose, you pay full price for.
Yeah.
That's something you keep in mind. You just can't, like, if you need plastic surgery because you got hurt or you had an amputee of something or whatever, of course they're going to fix that for the free or cheap price. But if you decide to do a procedure, for yourself to look more beautiful, then you have to pay full price for that.
Yeah.
That's not something, everybody has decided, yeah, we want to pay for your bigger, more luscious lips.
Yeah. They don't affect your health.
No. So actual health care is free. Your own chosen care is you still have to pay for. But at the same time, you can decide yourself to go to a hukgymnast, a physiotherapist. But if that therapist then decides, well, you actually need this to be more healthy, you can go to that normal price. That's the cheaper price. Just going to a physiotherapist for my own benefit, I would pay full price. But once I asked him about, hey, I'm doing a lot of hiking, a lot of walking, and my knee's a bit hurting, do you have exercise for me? Then he told me, like, right now you are in heugkostnadskydd, so you can ask me anything and it won't cost you anything, and we can have more appointments if you want or need them.
That's nice.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
That's helpful. I'm coming a little bit back to the cheap pricing. I know we were talking about the quality, but the cheap pricing is kind of included in the quality because everything is so cheap, you're not afraid to go to the doctor. You're just like, oh, I did something, I have this small little thing on my arm, let's just go and let it get it checked out. And you don't automatically wait too long until it becomes something that's harder to deal with. You can get care a lot sooner because you're not afraid that you have to pay a lot of money.
We also have a national phone number, and it's 1177, which is the healthcare number, and you can call there 24/7. It's for free, and you can, if you have a question, if you're worried about something, if your kids got a rash or anything medically, you can call them, and they'll be nurses, and they'll look up info.
Yeah. So
and they give you advice and recommendations if you need to go to the hospital, if you can wait a little, if someone's got a fever.
Yeah. So you call this number, there's always a nurse on standby answering this phone. No matter what time of day or what day it is, they're always there. And they are ready to help answer your questions, give you advice, or get you to the place where you can get your answers or help.
Yeah, if they think that you need to pursue.
Yeah. So let's take a weird example. You are playing with a bottle and you happen to swallow the bottle cap. The thing you do, right?
The thing you do.
Yes.
Steve.
And, you've swallowed this, but you feel okay, and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do about this. Well, then the easy thing is just to call this phone number, 1177, and then you'll get to talk to a nurse. The nurse will ask you a couple of questions, and they will either tell you, no, okay, this is fine, this will come out the natural way, or they tell you, well, I would like you to go to the emergency room. Well, they will call ahead to the emergency room while you're on the way. So the emergency room knows that you're coming with what problem, which is very nice. And yeah, this phone number 1177, they can also make doctor's appointments for you. It isn't meant to make appointments through them, but if in the conversation they are like, well, you need to visit a doctor, would you like me to make an appointment for you? Then they can do that. Don't confuse this with an emergency number. It's not an emergency number. If you have an emergency, call 112.
Yes.
This is a medical advice hotline. They just are there to help you with questions and help you make decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe ease your worry. I think they do a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Here in Sweden, they also have a other phone number that I don't know at the top of my head, but you can Google this. Giftcentralen, also very good. It's a phone number for everything poisonous. Like if your child happened to lick a frog or a toad,
Or swallow the bottle of pill that you already ate the cap of.
yeah, or your child happens to swallow cleaning liquid, then you can call that number, and their specialty is poisons and everything that's poisonous or venomous, and they can help you out. I actually called them once because that was very early when I was in Sweden. I got bit by a spider. And back then I didn't know about spiders in Sweden. I can tell you there are no dangerous spiders in Sweden. But back then I didn't know. And I had this little red mark where the spider bit me. So I called these guys, and they had a little conversation between each other. And then when they consulted their expert, they told me, don't worry about it, there aren't any poisonous spiders in Sweden. Well, they are poisonous, but not to us humans. He said, the only danger would be if you're allergic, so I want you to keep an eye on these symptoms. If these symptoms come up, go to the emergency room. That's what they told me. So it's very assuring to talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about. And they say, like, don't worry, it's a small spider bite. Only if you get these symptoms, do something about it. And it's the same with 1177. They just say, don't worry about it. If this happens, then you do this.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
It also feels a bit more reliable than just Googling things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you Google, you always get the darkest, most evil and baddest results you can get out there.
Everybody's going to die. It's going to be super painful.
Yeah. That's what Google's going to tell you. It's better to actually call a nurse and have a nurse tell you, like, nah, this is going to be fine, or visit the doctor.
You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
But 1177 isn't just a phone number.
No. It's also a website.
Yes.
So if you don't want to make a phone call, you can also look up symptoms and things to get like a first glance at things, and you can log in on this, and you have a connection to your own vårdcentral. It's not a hospital; it's more like a local, smaller hospital where you go to for when you have a cold or sprained ankle or something.
But the website is for the entire country.
Yes.
But you can connect to your local doctors.
Yeah. And through there you can book appointments, and you can read your your medical history.
Yeah.
And
so if you, for example, have vaccines that need to be done in several steps, you can actually log into your own website, your own part of that website, and see what vaccines you have had already.
That's really new, though.
Yeah.
I think they started that like a year ago, tops.
Well, they changed it with COVID, but I did use it before COVID too. But
I haven't used it before COVID.
But that website, like, yes, you can look up your own history, you can look up symptoms, but you can also use it to renew your prescriptions for your medicine. Like, if you have a medicine that you always use and your prescription has run out, you don't actually have to go visit the doctor. You can just go to this website and you say, I want to renew this recipe.
I need more.
Yeah. And then it takes a few days because an actual doctor still looks at it, but then it gets renewed and you can go get your medicine at the apoteket.
The pharmacy.
The pharmacy.
Yes.
Also, pharmacies here in Sweden work just like the ones in Holland. Nothing strange about it. It's just a little bit easier with it being coupled to the website 1177.
Yeah. All prescriptions are digital.
Yes.
So when you've been at the doctors, you can just go straight to the pharmacy and everything's in the system. And
it doesn't actually matter to what pharmacy you go to. There are different brands of pharmacies. There's apoteket and...
there's hjärtat. You
Yeah,
have
Apotek Hjärtat and
Lejonet, Apotekgruppen. There's several ones.
There's several ones. It doesn't matter which one you go to. You can go to the other side of the country and still get your prescription. You don't need to ask your doctor, can you send the prescription to this pharmacy or that pharmacy? All pharmacies have access to 1177 and your journal, and you can get your prescription. Sometimes if they don't have your actual medicine, they will give you a similar medicine with the same effect from a different brand, but it's still the same stuff.
They often ask you if it's okay with a cheaper version.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
That is nice.
That has like the same ingredients, but it's just cheaper. And that's fine.
Now that we're talking medicines and pharmacies, there's also, of course, normal medicine that you don't need a prescription for. And in my and my parents' experience, the medicine that they sell here over the counter in Sweden is a little bit less strong than it is in Holland. If that's good or a bad thing, I don't know. It's just a thing. So if you regularly want, if you get an example I know of, if you get small wounds in your mouth and you use, in Holland we call it Camillo Sun. It's a medicine that you put in your mouth and then it helps those little wounds in your mouth heal. The Swedish version of that is a lot less strong and doesn't work as effective in my opinion. But of course, there's other medicine that you can get over the counter here that's stronger. And I think you're going to have that in every country, that there's just differences in what medicine is stronger or weaker.
Yeah.
And that's something you're just going to have to learn which one works for you and doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just, you need to be aware of that those differences can happen and exist.
I mean, it's like the same in a supermarket. There are different brands. There are different versions of things.
Yeah.
They're different. You just need to, figure out what works.
Yeah. You might be thinking, okay, if everybody gets that help in Sweden for free and for cheap, I should say, and sometimes for free, how does it...
Children get it for free up till they're 20.
Oh, I
think.
didn't. That's good.
No doctor's visits cost or to the dentist.
Oh.
Dentist is a completely different thing in Sweden because that's a lot more expensive. But that's not what we're covering today.
Well, dental health is also health.
Yes, but it's not in the same system at all.
No. That is a bit more expensive here in Sweden, but I'm not sure if it's more expensive in Holland. I've heard people complain that it is expensive in Holland to go to the dentist. The same here. I hear people complain that it's expensive to go to the dentist in Sweden. So
I had a period where I waited quite a few years to go.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Want to save up some money to go to the dentist.
You never know the price tag.
Let's keep the dentist out of this. Yes. I want to talk about this. And I'm holding it this way because I don't want to give off my personal information.
Wise.
But this card, you don't automatically get this when you go to Sweden or when you start living in Sweden, but it is really easy to get. It's like 5 minutes work on the internet. Barely 5 minutes work. We've recently done this. But this card allows you to travel through the entirety of Europe and then take your Swedish healthcare with you. So if you are in a different European country and you have an emergency or you just need to visit the doctor, you have this card with you and you pay just as much as you would have when you're in Sweden. Or you pay up front and get your money back later. Which is very nice.
Can you tell them what it is?
It's you tell them.
The Europeiska sjukförsäkringskortet. So it's the European healthcare card, basically.
Insurance card. The European healthcare insurance card. And this is like your Swedish healthcare insurance that you can just, after 5 minutes of work, You will get this card for free, and then you are insured in the entirety of Europe, as long as you live in Sweden.
Cool, huh?
I think that's really cool.
It is.
It is really cool. I actually had a car crash in America, and yes, this card only is for Europe, but with a little bit of extra work, which is barely any work at all, you can also take this to different countries outside of Europe. And I took it to America, and this actually helped me pay for my hospital bill after being in a car crash. Also, if you want to know more about that car crash, look at this video. Or did I put it over there? I don't remember. Somewhere up here, there's a video now about my car crash in America. So, yes, this card, go get it if you live in Sweden and you are planning to go to a different country, because then you don't have to pay for any emergencies.
Do it.
You pay very little for your emergencies.
Do it.
Yep. Okay, so the last thing we want to talk about is the disadvantages of the Swedish healthcare system. And like I said, I have not had any bad experiences here in Sweden when it comes to quality or price. The only thing that is bad here, which is actually bad in Holland too, and actually most places as far as I can tell today, yeah, is that they have a shortage on personnel. There's a shortage on doctors, there's a shortage on nurses, there's a shortage on surgeons. Every healthcare profession they have too little of.
Yeah.
And that does mean that sometimes the waiting lines are large. You sometimes have to wait to get help. And although the wait is like, they won't have you wait when you have an emergency. Of course, they're going to help you if you have an emergency. But I have waited for 11 hours once in the emergency room when I was there with a little girl that needed a stitch in her foot. We had to wait 11 hours because we're dealing with other people and there weren't enough personnel to deal with multiple people at once. This also means that if you need a doctor's visit, it isn't abnormal if they plan your visit in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's the same thing. If it's not an emergency, then it will take longer for you to get that appointment.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the biggest disadvantage. It can be an advantage if you happen to be a doctor or a nurse. You can get a job real easy.
And possibly be overworked real fast.
Yes, but that's your choice.
That's your choice, yes. I will say that there is supposedly a maximum amount of time that you are allowed to wait, like legally, and it's about 3 months. So hopefully, for surgeries.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will stick. I mean, of course, there are problems and whatnot, but also there are, for certain types of surgeries, like certain cancers or specific things, that they have very good communication between certain hospitals, that they will send patients to another place, to another part of the country that are more specialized in these kinds of surgeries. Yeah. So it's for some surgeries, things go really fast because there is a system that has been put in place for it. And then for other things, it's just forever and ever.
You bring up a good point there about the communication between hospitals, because I've seen that as a bad and a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like in this case, it's a good thing where the communication is good and they send people that are waiting in line to a different hospital. Mm-hmm. But I've also seen it as a bad thing. Like, I'm not sure if I remember it wrong from Holland, but I believe in Holland most hospitals can do almost anything. But here in Sweden, it seems to be a little bit more separated.
Yeah.
Like the hospital in Eksjö cannot do LASIK surgery on your eyes. Then they will send you to a hospital in Jönköping. So There is definitely a division in specialities in hospitals here in Sweden. And that does mean that sometimes you have to drive very long distances to get to the treatment you need.
It can also be that they can offer you a place in a different city where they have a shorter waiting line, like for hip surgery or more non-threatening kinds of things, that they can bump you up if you're able to go to a different city.
Yeah. And at the same time, that is also weird because remember when I said I was waiting at the emergency center for a little girl being stitched on her foot? We were waiting there for 11 hours. In that time, it would have been easy for us to drive to a different hospital and be helped sooner. If they just told us, like, hey, this is going to take such a long time, you're better off going somewhere else. They never told us that. I don't know if that's a one-time thing, but...
No, I don't think that's the general...
No.
The thing that they would send you somewhere else.
Yeah, which is weird, which I think they should do. Like, if they are so busy, they can't help somebody in 11 hours that's sitting there waiting on a wound that needs to be stitched. Send them somewhere else.
I feel like emergency rooms, they just have that. You're just supposed to know that you have to wait for a long time. It's just a sort of standard that's what happens. If you're not bleeding profusely or have anything broken or having a heart attack, you get to sit and wait.
Yep. Well, anyway.
On that note.
Yeah, no, these are just some small little nitpicks about the Swedish system. And they're, of course, working on it. One last thing I think is important for anybody considering moving to the Swedish countryside. Remember that when you come from Holland, the ambulance is supposed to get to you within 15 minutes, no matter where you live.
Ooh.
That's not possible here in Sweden.
No.
No. If where I live, I need an ambulance, they're gonna drive for at least half an hour to get to me. And there are places in Sweden where that time is gonna be even longer. And that's just something you need to consider if that's something you're okay with. And maybe because of that, you decide that you want to follow a first aid course for yourself. So just be aware that if you move into the countryside, help is a little bit farther away than when back in Holland, where it's all pretty close.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Swedish healthcare system is very good. They're very cheap. The quality is good. I have very little to complain about. The things we
Except for the 11-hour wait.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah.
That was really frustrating.
Did you bring a snack?
Well, luckily the mother of the girl was there too, and we kind of tag teamed. She went outside for a walk, and then when she came back, I went out
Poor kid, though.
Yeah, I went outside to go get some snacks and some food, and the kid was just 7 years old, and she had to wait for 11 hours. Anyway, let's not dwindle on that. That was a one-time occurrence, and I hope it's not the usual. But yeah, the waiting lines are a bit longer because of shortage of personnel. That's just the thing. But let's end on a high note and say it's cheap, professional, and good healthcare here. People take care of you here in Sweden. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative for you. Don't take our word for anything we just said. Actually do your research if this is important to you. Because if we happen to say anything wrong, we're not professionals. Just seek out the correct information, please. And with that said, I hope you find this worth a subscription, and we'll see you all next time.
Oh, and a like.
And a like. Yes, you can like this.
You can like it.
You can
and comment something.
I mean, it's 1 o'clock at night by now. If this isn't worth the like, I don't know what is. We want to go to bed, but I had to make a vlog. Anyway, Bye!
Bye!
YouTube says you might enjoy this video. Go ahead and give it a try.